What happened to Ashley Dale? Why was she shot dead in her room while thinking of her future life with her boyfriend? Why was Ashley's body found in the garden of her home? Who killed her in her own house? Who punctured the tire of her car on the night of the murder? This is the true crime story of a girl named Ashley Dale, who was just 28 years old. She paid the price for the double life of her boyfriend. Flashpoint Crime brings you exclusive details inside the true murder mystery of a young, beautiful girl, Ashley Dale. Ashley, an environmental health worker for Nosy Council, was just 28 years old. She was a beautiful young woman with the rest of her life ahead of her. She was at home that night, in a place she was meant to feel safe. She was making a positive contribution as an environmental health officer at Nosy Council and had just successfully achieved a promotion. Heartbreakingly, she never got the chance to begin her new job as her life was cut short in the most brutal and merciless way. A few years ago, Ashley crossed paths with a man named Lee Harrison, who presented himself as a charismatic and courteous gentleman. He had an easygoing charm and a knack for making people feel comfortable in his presence. At first glance, he seemed like the perfect picture of integrity and decency. Their initial meetings were brief but left an impression, and before long, they began talking regularly. Lee was a young man with an adventurous spirit who often spoke about his experiences as a traveler, painting vivid pictures of the places he had visited and the stories he had collected along the way. Captivated by his tales and his demeanor, Ashley found herself trusting him deeply, despite knowing very little about his background or past. Her trust was unwavering, even as their conversations grew more personal and their connection deepened. Over time, their relationship blossomed, and eventually, they decided to take the next step by moving in together. They settled into a modest home in Old Swan, Liverpool, where they hoped to build a life together. Initially, everything seemed perfect. But as days turned into weeks, Ashley began to notice peculiarities in Lee's behavior. He was frequently absent from home, sometimes for long stretches, and when she asked where he had been or what he had been doing, his answers were often vague or evasive. It was as though he was deliberately withholding something from her. As these incidents became more frequent, Ashley's once unwavering trust began to waver. Her curiosity turned to concern, and her concern soon evolved into suspicion. She started sharing her unease with her close friends, seeking their advice and support. She would often text them, pouring her heart out about the growing doubts she had about Lee. His strange behavior was unsettling, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. On August 1st, she sent a particularly troubling message to one of her friends, expressing the depth of her anxiety. "I don't want to have to go to Lee's funeral next," she wrote, her words heavy with foreboding. "I just have a bad feeling about everything. My nerves are completely shot. When I'm out in the car with Lee, it feels like I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, expecting something to happen." The fear gnawed at her, intensifying with each passing day. Ashley couldn't understand why Lee's actions unsettled her so much, but her intuition kept telling her that there was more to his story than he was letting on. The once joyous relationship now seemed clouded by secrets, leaving her in a constant state of worry and unease. In a series of voice notes shared with another close friend, Ashley's growing unease became more apparent. She confided that she had confronted Lee, pleading for transparency about whatever he might be involved in so she could mentally prepare for the worst. "I don't normally want to know," she admitted, her voice laced with a mix of anxiety and desperation. "But I need to know what's going to happen." Her words hinted at an escalating sense of dread, a storm of worry that was building in the shadows of their once seemingly happy relationship. Her worst fears came true when Ashley uncovered the truth about Lee's secret life. One day, while piecing together fragments of his cryptic behavior, she made the horrifying discovery that Lee was deeply involved in the world of drug dealing. He wasn't just a traveler as he had claimed, but a man with ties to dangerous people in a high-stakes underworld. This revelation shattered the trust she had placed in him and left her feeling betrayed and terrified of the risks his lifestyle posed to their safety. The situation took a tragic and devastating turn on the night of August 21, 2022. Ashley was at home, enjoying what she thought would be a peaceful evening. As she sat watching TV, completely unaware of the danger lurking outside, her world was about to change forever. Suddenly, the stillness of the night was shattered by the sound of someone forcing their way into her house. Before she could fully grasp what was happening, a loud gunshot echoed through the walls. Moments later, the neighbors were startled by the sound of Ashley's blood-curdling scream. The scene that followed was one of unimaginable horror. Ashley had been shot in the abdomen and, in a desperate attempt to seek help, had managed to stumble into her backyard. There, she collapsed in the shadows, lying motionless until a neighbor discovered her. It was around 12:30 a.m. when paramedics and police arrived at the grim scene, finding her unresponsive in her backyard. Despite their best efforts, Ashley's injuries were fatal. The brutal attack left the community in shock and her loved ones devastated. The police quickly began piecing together the details of this heinous crime, collecting evidence from the scene and launching a full-scale investigation to identify and apprehend those responsible. The investigation unearthed a chilling and far-reaching backstory, one that revealed the roots of this tragedy had been planted years before. At the center of it all was a man named Barry, a ruthless figure who orchestrated a dangerous county drug ring. The chain of events that culminated in Ashley's murder could be traced back 3 years to a deadly feud between Barry and Lee Harrison. The bad blood began with an alleged drug theft that fractured their working relationship and plunged them into opposing sides of a dangerous criminal underworld. Lee had aligned himself with the Hillside organized crime group, the very people accused of stealing from Barry. This betrayal ignited a vendetta that smoldered for years before flaring up again during the Glastonbury Festival in June 2022, when tensions between the two factions reached a boiling point. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the public learned of the intricate and sinister connections behind Ashley's death. Prosecutors painted a vivid picture of a world steeped in betrayal, vengeance, and dangerous alliances. The suspects in Ashley's murder were arrested, but the heartbreaking reality remained. An innocent young woman had been caught in the crossfire of a feud she had no part in. The echoes of that night would continue to haunt her family and friends, serving as a tragic reminder of the far-reaching consequences of Lee's dangerous choices. On the night of the murder, Barry sent James Witham and Joseph Pearce to kill Lee Harrison or anyone in the way. They slashed the tires of Ashley's car, hoping to lure Lee outside. However, Lee was not home. At 12:30 a.m., Witham broke into the house. Ashley screamed and ran towards the back door, but Witham pursued her, firing 10 bullets. One struck Ashley in the abdomen as she stood by the back door. Police discovered Ashley's phone near her lifeless body, and a heartbreaking detail emerged. She had attempted to call Lee in her final moments, desperately seeking help. This revelation added a poignant layer to the investigation, as authorities worked tirelessly to piece together the events that led to her tragic death. Lee, who had been a central figure in Ashley's life, initially cooperated with the police. However, in the aftermath of her murder, he changed his phone number and abruptly left for Spain, a move that raised further questions about his involvement and the dangerous connections surrounding him. As the investigation progressed, the net tightened around the individuals responsible for Ashley's untimely death. The police meticulously gathered evidence and pursued every lead, culminating in the arrests of James Witham, Joseph Pearce, Neil Barry, and Shah Zesh. Their roles in the crime were dissected in court, with James Witham admitting to manslaughter. He claimed that his intention had not been to kill Ashley but to issue a warning. However, the jury found this excuse unconvincing, especially given the brutal nature of the attack. After a grueling 7-week trial, justice was served. James Witham, Joseph Pearce, Neil Barry, and Shah Zesh were found guilty of Ashley's murder. The court handed down life sentences to all four, with minimum terms ranging from 41 to 47 years, ensuring that these men would spend decades behind bars for their heinous crime. The verdict brought a measure of closure, but it could never undo the devastating loss suffered by Ashley's family. Throughout the court proceedings, Ashley's loved ones endured an unimaginable ordeal. Her father, Stephen Dale, expressed the profound anguish that the family had experienced, stating, "This has been mental torture for me and Ashley's family. We have had to listen to the lies of those responsible." His words underscored the emotional toll the trial had taken, as the family faced the harrowing details of Ashley's death and the betrayal of trust that surrounded it. Thank you for taking the time to watch this story. If you found the content compelling, please consider liking the video. It helps immensely with the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful and thought-provoking stories.